What are the one or two top messages that you think would resonate with the black community?
Well, the black community right now needs someone to come in and give them some training and some jobs and the ability so they can work and move themselves up through the entrepreneurship.
If you had a chance to talk with Donald Trump as president as well as the head of the Republican Party, what would you advise him to do if he wanted to build better relations with the black business community?
One, he needs to send his people out to address some of the issues that are unique to the black community. And I think he has the ability, because he is out of the box, and he has a number of untraditional people that they can put them out in the community and they can have other blacks address the community to bring their community constituents along so they can participate with the Republican Party.
What made you decide to get involved with the Republican Party?
Well, I think for myself, it was actually different. The Republican Party, as a business owner, you do certain things that empower your business and work with your business. And then one day you realize that, wow, all of these things that I'm doing naturally are with one group of people, right? So all of a sudden you realize, oh, I'm a Republican, right? Because everybody wants to put you in a box, right? You understand where you stand and what category you're in. So becoming part of the Republican Party was just a natural fit for me.
So should the Republican Party give up on black folks, or do you think it's possible to reestablish those historical ties with the black community?
Now's the time for them to focus harder than ever. The bar is low, and there's a great opportunity for them to make inroads with the black community, as they need so much help. And entrepreneurship is the way that Martin Luther King saw blacks and the minorities to move forward through the educational process and entrepreneurship. So that's what the Republican Party should focus on, and they should be able to help the black community, and it should be a natural win-win.
All right, thank you. Yeah, that wasn't too painful. State your name and title.
Herman Cain, Chief Executive Officer of The New Voice Incorporated.
Can the Republican Party reestablish its relationship with the black community?
I happen to believe that they can reestablish their relationship with the black community, but it's going to take several things. Number one, focus. I think that the focus that the Republican Party has in trying to reach the black community is not properly directed. Secondly, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit out there in terms of getting the black community to begin to believe that the Republican Party cares, that's being missed because of lack of focus. So if you got focus and low-hanging fruit, then you need to have a strategy for making it happen. I don't happen to believe that the Republican Party has the focus or the strategy.
What are the top one or two messages you think would most resonate with the black community?
The first one that comes to mind is the Republican Party can become a resource for retraining, upgrading people's work skills, because we have a unique opportunity with such a low unemployment rate. And with such a low unemployment rate, there are a lot of people in the black community who lack the skills, lack the retraining, or lack the knowledge of where they go and how they get this done. And that, I believe, is a golden opportunity for the Republican Party. This country is going to be faced with a challenge because of the success of this economy, and that is having enough good, well-trained workers to continue to fill those jobs that are going to be created.
If you were talking with President Trump as the President of the United States as well as the head of the Republican Party, what would you say to him that he can and needs to do to speak directly to the black business community?
I believe that the president needs to establish a singular focus, a single point of contact such that that single point of contact can connect with those critical points within the black community and with black businesses. With all due respect, the president has surrounded himself with a lot of good people. But as in any big organization, it's a constant power struggle. And if people in the black business community or the business community do not feel as if there is one person that's their go-to person in the administration, a lot of opportunities are going to fall through the cracks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lord God, for those who have put this particular arrangement together, who have prepared the food and prepared everything else for us to break bread together as family. We ask you right now, Father God, as we begin to celebrate the great works of these individuals, that you be with us.
Is that he didn't want this to be a routine and stale awards luncheon. And by that, meaning the people that were being honored and recognized during the luncheon, he really wanted those individuals to be trailblazers in their own right. And by that, meaning they didn't blaze a trail accidentally. It wasn't done haphazardly. It was some kind of purpose to them blazing the trail, really leaving a path for others to follow and to emulate. And that's one of the real distinctions between this set of award winners this afternoon and those that have won in the previous years. So with that, I would like to bring to the stage the founder of Black Americans for a Better Future and the founder of the Black Republican Trailblazers Awards Luncheon. I could go on and on and on about Raynard's bio and the things that he's done politically over the course of the last almost 30 years in the Republican Party, going back to St. Louis. You all know, working with then George Herbert Walker Bush as one of the chairmen there in St. Louis for his presidential run, and right up to the things that he's doing today. It's countless national syndicated columnist, fundraiser, party strategist, international man of intrigue, on and on and on. But without further ado, can we bring Raynard up with a round of applause?
Yeah, real funny, Monego, real funny. Thank you all for that standing ovation. Keep standing. Go on. No, I mean, go on. No, go on. So thank you, guys. Thank you. And thanks, Aaron. And I tell you, I was once told that one measure of a man is the caliber of people that chooses to associate with you. And based on this room and people who've helped us with this, I think I'm in pretty good company with people like Monego and the honorees here and all my friends you see here. So I want to thank you all for coming out on a Sunday afternoon when you all could still be in bed, because I know y'all don't go to church. Oh, I forgot, some of you all do go to, Bedside Baptist with Reverend Sheets. The choir sings in a cappella in the key of Z major. Oh, y'all ain't praying with me. And I want to pay special attention, obviously, to our honorees here. We got Herman Cain, we got Senator Jackie Winters, we got Minnie Finley, we got Larry McKinney, and we got John Sibley Butler. And we also have a special guest in the house. A lot of you all have met her, the U.S. Treasurer for the United States, Jovita Carranza. And she has a corporate background. I think you were the highest ranking Latina in UPS, United Parcel Service, when you were there before you came into the administration. And so she's put in her time in church, unlike you heathens here. And but she's going to bring the blessing from on high to us here. Let me tell you a couple things, and we're going to jump right into the program because you all have been to the other 5 programs we've done this for our Trailblazers. You know, we don't tarry long. Oh, ain't nobody praying. Now, we can tarry long, especially if the offering is right. Let me give you a little bit of historic context as to how we got to where we are today in Monego. And for you all don't know, at Herman, at breakfast, we were talking about people always walking up to me telling me, do you know Corey or do you know Bobby? Like, you got to give me a first and a last name. I don't know who the heck y'all talking about. Well, in D.C., Herman, we talking alphabets and last name. I have a meeting in the morning with the FBI, then I'm going to DOG to meet with DHS and DOD. And if you understood what I just said, you've been in D.C. too long. Americans don't talk like that. We talk in complete sentences the further away from D.C. you get. But after the 2012 election, the presidential election, when Romney ran against Obama for his second term, of course, we got devastated. Romney got 6% of the black vote, and even though a lot of folks told his campaign what needed to be done relative to the black community. I mean, I don't know how you can have a businessman of Romney's caliber and he not understand black entrepreneurs are the low-hanging fruit as far as tapping into the black community. So I went and talked to, as Aaron said, or as we call him, Herman Monego. So, Aaron, we're going to have to teach him a new language up here. It's Monego. He calls me Jackson, McKinney. We call you a lot of things I can't repeat up here. And so I went to talk to Rice Priebus and said I wanted to create a Trailblazer Award show to honor black Republicans who have accomplished 3 things. They've made significant contributions to America, significant contributions to the black community, and significant contributions to the Republican Party. You have to meet all 3. And having a title does not mean you are a trailblazer. You can be historic. For example, Senator Tim Scott in South Carolina, the first black to win a U.S. Senate seat in the history of the state of South Carolina. Historic, not a trailblazer, and he even admitted that. And Tim's a good friend, and so our first year, and so when Priebus said, that's a great idea, Harriman, Priebus means Reince Priebus. Okay, I got to interpret for him. See, I'm Reince Priebus. And so he gave his blessing and said, hey, why don't we do this with the RNC? I said, fine, perfect. I said, I'll go out and raise the money for it. And he said, no, don't do that. Let the RNC pay for it. So that's how the first 2 came about. And our first year 1, our first honorees, the 2 honorees were Bob Brown, who was the highest ranking black in the Nixon administration. He was the only American that the South African government would allow to visit Nelson Mandela when he was in jail. He brought Mandela means Nelson Mandela, Herman. I mean, since you don't know what last name, we had to tell you their full name. And Bob brought, and he's from Hickory, North Carolina, he brought Mandela's kids here to the U.S., put them through university, and all of them are pretty successful now. Also, Bob, when Martin Luther King was assassinated, Coretta Scott King called Bob up and said, Bob, I need you to come back to Atlanta, and I need you to go with me to pick up Martin's body. Here's a black Republican, Mark Mariel's godfather. He's also Oprah Winfrey's godfather, a lifetime Republican. He was the first black to be a U.S. Marshal back in maybe the 50s or something like that. And the second honoree was Bill Coleman, who was the first black Republican ever to serve in a cabinet position for a U.S. president. Gerald Ford nominated him to be Secretary of Transportation in '75, but he was also the first black to graduate from Harvard Law School, the first black to clerk for a U.S. Supreme Court Justice Felix Frankfurter. But more importantly to me, he was a law partner with Thurgood Marshall, and he also actually wrote the legal brief to Brown versus Board of Education, black Republican. Thurgood Marshall used to talk about him all the time, and yet Somehow Bob Brown and Bill Coleman never shows up in the history books, even when black folks are doing the writing. Anytime you see Thurgood Marshall's name and you don't see Bill Coleman, something's wrong with that picture because they were tied at the hip. And so our keynote speaker was David Stewart. And you all, most of you all probably don't even know who David Stewart is. He's the wealthiest black businessman in the U.S. He is doing over $10 billion a year in IT. From my city, hometown, I've known Dave for 25, 30 years. He was our keynote speaker. He had been writing the party six-figure check. The RNC had no idea who he was. No idea. Here's the guy that's writing the party over $100,000 a year, and no one knew who he was. And so the funny part was, I should tell us in public, but Herman, I know you got my back if I get in trouble. So the RNC was going to, pay for Dave Stewart to come up here and, give the speech, put him up, in a hotel. And so I said, no, I'm not putting you in touch with Dave. I'll set up a conference call because, Herman, I wouldn't trust him to deal with someone of that stature alone with my life. So we're on a conference call, and they said, what airline do you want us to book your ticket on? And he said, I have my own plane. You should have saw the look on these folks' face, and you know who they were. They weren't like us, if you get my point. It was almost, they didn't say this verbally, but the look says, wait a minute, I thought you were black. Yeah, I got my own plane. So let's take that off the table, so I don't need a ticket. Where do you want to stay? We at the Marriott, we got the Hills. I have a suite in the Mandarin Oriental down the street here. Wait a minute, I thought he was black. We don't know how that was the look on their face. So my point behind it, I want you all to understand the historical context of how this program in our 6th year came to be. And again, I think Colin Powell is a trailblazer by every definition. Significant contribution to America, significant contribution to the black community, significant contribution to the Republican Party. Now, juxtapose that with Condoleezza Rice, who she's historic. I don't know if I would necessarily call her a trailblazer in the sense that, for example, when Colin Powell was Secretary of State, the first thing he did once he was confirmed on a Friday, that Sunday, he called all the career people together at the State Department and said, I'm going to do a couple things you got. I'm increasing your salary across the board. I'm allocating $1 million a year for Howard University to be my point guy, to reach out to all the historically black colleges and universities, to encourage all of your students to look at a career in foreign service. And as a direct result of what Colin Powell did when he was Secretary of State, you can make a direct correlation between that and the diversity you see among younger diplomats of diverse background in the State Department. That's all to the legacy of Colin Powell. So when I say trailblazer, I want you to fully understand that it's not because you broke a world record or you are Tiger Woods. I wouldn't consider Tiger Woods a trailblazer. Historic, without question. I would not necessarily consider Jay-Z, for example, a trailblazer. Historic, made money, but what is the lasting impact these guys have made on our community? That's what I want you to understand. And each of these honorees here today, they are true trailblazers. Their lives and their touch and reach has been felt and will continue to be felt long after they're gone. That's the definition of a trailblazer. So with that background, we're going to jump into the program, and I'm going to just talk about each of these honorees. Yes, I don't have a lot of prepared remarks, but we're going to bring them up one at a time and let them share their comments about whatever's on their heart, and then we're going to end the program and let the U.S. Treasurer bring us home, as we say in church. Since you all didn't go to church, she's going to bring it home, and then I'll take up an offering. You all think I'm joking, don't you? I'm not. And so this is our sixth Trailblazers, and we have ignited a conversation within the black community, because if you didn't participate or come to the panel discussion last night and the reception, you had several Democrats in the audience, and their position was, I'm not opposed to the Republican Party. No one's ever just sat down and had a conversation like this. And so we know that if we focus on the black entrepreneurs, we can make progress with the black community. And hopefully Treasurer Carranza will make sure the administration is aware of that black folks are not closed to the Republican Party. All we want is people to have a conversation with us. The issues are not the problem. The values are not the problem. We just want you to kiss us before you ask us to go up in our room. And if we do that, guess what? Black folks will respond. So having said that, who should I bring up first, Minnie? Should I bring you up first? Bring the whole table. Look what she said. Matter of fact, let's get the bashful one out of the way from Oregon, since she traveled the furthest. Our first awardee, and Treasurer, would you mind, when I bring up each person, you mind helping me present the award to each person? Okay, thank you. Yeah, not right now. Let me introduce them, and then we'll bring you up, and we'll jointly present the award. State Senator Jackie Winters, we had a nice dialogue last night during the panel discussion. She's from the state of Oregon. She's been in the legislature for 20 years, a Republican, and she's from Kansas. I think it's Lawrence, isn't that right, Senator? Topeka. Yeah, right, exactly. Topeka, Kansas, right next door to me over in Missouri, on the Missouri side of the river. And she's the Senate Minority Leader of the Senate in Oregon. The Senate Minority Leader. And you know what? The Republican Party has no idea who this woman is. She's a civil rights legend in Oregon, an icon, a businesswoman, even though she refuses to make me some of her ribs that she's famous for. She used to own several restaurants in Oregon. So I'm going to, every media show I do, Senator, I'm going to mention that this nice senator refuses to make me any of her famous ribs until you finally give in. I'll fly back out to Oregon and get some of your ribs. So I'm going to stay on you about that. But these are the type of people not only do we need to pay homage to because of what they've given to us, especially folks in my generation. Without people like her in Oregon, guess what? I wouldn't be standing here, and a lot of us in this room of my age group wouldn't be standing here. She has blazed a trail that has enabled me to follow behind her. I was once told that a trailblazer should be like a candle. The more light a candle gives off, the less it becomes. And that's the definition of a trailblazer. Think about that next time you light a candle. That candle stops you from stumbling in the dark, but the more you don't stumble, the less that candle becomes. That's what leadership is all about. And so, Madam Treasurer, come up here, and we're going to present to our first honoree, the distinguished state senator from Oregon and the Senate Minority Leader from the great state of Oregon, Ms. Jackie Winters. Give her some love. You get in the middle here. Congratulations. Thank you. The microphone is all yours, and be nice.
Well, first I want to thank Renard for flying out to Oregon, and I know he probably got jet lagged, and I'm also certain I didn't tell him about the whole Jackie's ribs prior to him flying out, because I wasn't prepared to actually stoke up the fires and make certain that I had the actual hickory in order to feed him. But I did actually, I'm a mother of 4 sons and 11 grandchildren and 2 greats. So I busily adopt individuals along this journey of mine. And so I promised him that I would adopt him. I didn't promise him as one of my sons. I did not promise him as to when I would stoke up the fires in order to feed him, however. So he'll just have to wait for that. But I am, and I was very nice to reconnect with Herman. We had met several years ago when I was with the Restaurant Association, and he was with actually the head of the National Association. It truly is an honor to be here, and it truly is to connect with Reynard and Jackson and the work that he is doing. I remembered in sitting and listening to others this yesterday and today, something that my father had said, and I was very blessed to have 2 parents, and I was very blessed to grow up in my journey along the way to where they said, you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. And further that blessing, I was very blessed to also learn that family was one of the most important pieces of our life, and that we do have a responsibility in bringing, not only nurturing and caring and feeding, but we have we have a responsibility of taking those risks in the broader community. So I really, truly, and I know that as we stand here, my community is not the East Coast. My community is the West. But the job doesn't mean that simply because it's geography. The job means that the passion that you have for change, that you continue it. We've got a lot of individuals who were trailblazers, and I'm so grateful that you're taking it upon yourself to make certain that they're recognized in the Republican Party. I tell them at home, I'm an endangered species, and I'd like to have others join me. So with that, Renard, thank you so much, and come visit me, all of you. Come to, help us, because we all need to help each other. Thanks.
She's just a walking history book. And matter of fact, go out to Oregon sometime and let her know you're coming, and she'll make time to visit with you. Oregon is a beautiful place, and I want to go there again because I've always wanted to go to, what's the major track meet they have there? Nike, tail end. And what's the name of it? Is it the Fontaine track meet? Prefontaine, yeah. I want to go out there sometime. Huh? Oh, that's right, Portland, Portland. The real trailblazers, so. Can you get me tickets? Okay. But no, seriously, and we need to do everything we can to make sure we support her as well, because she's an elected official, and so go on the internet and pull up her website for a Senate office, and if the Lord so moves you, wait a minute, Herman, is it still okay to say Lord in public in America? I'm not offended. Okay, well, good, okay. You're right, I just got to be careful. I don't want anyone to file a lawsuit against me, so. And now the next honoree, I tell you, this boy has been a good friend of mine from decades and decades. He's like a son to me. My New Orleans boy here, and seriously, we will call each other up, and normally when people call you or you call them, you have a conversation, but with John, it's always a monologue, and he's the one doing the monologue and the logging. Heck, I can't get a word in edgewise, so. But he is a walking history book when it comes to entrepreneurship, and for you all who were not here last night, John had a book. When I first met him, he gave me this book. He documented all the way back to the 1700s the history of blacks and entrepreneurship. states like Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama, not all blacks were slaves. And he got original source documents to trace all these black business owners from the 1700s. If you haven't read his book, Google it, and it's a phenomenal read. When I read the book, I could not put it down. But more importantly, if I'm doing something or I need help with something, John has a Rolodex out of this world, and he's just been a dear, dear friend. And he definitely fits the definition of a trailblazer, and he's always giving and giving and giving. He's a serial entrepreneur. I know you benefited greatly from that tax cut, didn't you? Talking about
White House has oversight on these things that I just spoke about. So we're working in partnership and fully engaged, and I look forward to continue working with you. And I'll only share what I can without getting shot. But thank you so much, and I congratulate the recipients. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
And again, you will never see this on the media because the Trump administration is a racist administration, yes? Even though he has a Hispanic treasurer, yet, and we're going to work together, and she's going to invite me to bring some of you all in to meet with her about infrastructure, about contracting opportunities. She's already begun to talk with Linda McMahon, who's the administrator for SBA. And so we're going to be bringing minority firms in to have discussions about contracting opportunities, because I think under Trump, we can really, really make significant progress as far as creating more opportunities for minority entrepreneurs. And again, you won't see this on the media, and so that's why we're going to put this session on our website in the next few days. So we got 2 more housekeeping things to do, and we're going to be out of there within the next 5 minutes. So again, we're staying true to our word to get you out. Well, if you all keep this up, I may ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks. I'm going to bring, where's Freddie? Freddie's running around there. Freddie? Where are you at, Freddie? He is the executive director at NMPA, National Newspaper Publishers Association. They're the one that syndicate my column, and they represent 200 black newspapers. Senator, let's see, do we have any newspapers in Oregon where the senator's from? Okay. But Freddie is the one that he takes a lot of heat from, and you'd be amazed at all the calls you get about my columns. And I mean, real story. 3 times in 8 years under Obama, they tried to get my column canceled. 3 times. And I thought this was America. But obviously only if you agree with what the person is writing. But I encourage you to support your black newspapers. And Madam Treasurer, this is one of the things I'm working with White House Comms about, is to start engaging with these 200 black newspapers, because not all of them are hostile, and Freddie is about as down the middle of the road as you could go. And so I'll work with you, and I'm hoping that maybe you'll be open to even letting us let Freddie interview you about what you're doing with the small and minority business community, because Freddie is a old-fashioned journalist where he's straight down the middle. And so too many journalists are trying to do a hatchet job. Freddie doesn't believe in that. He's a old-school journalist, even though he's only, you about 20 now? But Freddie is a good friend, and when you all read my column, he's the one that makes my column looks good. So, and before we got Monego, you got an announcement to make. Okay, did I stutter? Come to the microphone, and I want you to make an announcement about your program. Oh, you gotta love her, my African American. Believe me, he's so beautiful. He's so beautiful. Believe me. I love me some Herman. Aaron Monego, he's got to announce a program we're working on in what, March?
April. Yeah. So, in conjunction with the Republican National Committee, most of you are familiar with a program called CPAC, the conservative political action conference that takes place every year. And after a number of years, we had not been able to make significant headway with CPAC in making sure that there was a place and opportunity for members of the minority community to have a significant role in what takes place with the CPAC conference. So what many of the leaders from various organizations all around the country decided to do was to get together and pull together our own version of the CPAC conference. And that conference is called Impact, the Multicultural Policy and Political Action Conference. And that conference is set to take place on April 26th and April 27th of this year. Many of you in the room would have probably received the information, the deck on the Impact Conference. It is going to be an absolute fantastic two-day conference. We have probably the Vice President coming to speak at the conference. Mr. Kane will be there as one of the keynote speakers during the conference. We have any number of panels that will be going on. George will be there with his organization is one of the panelists and moderators. And it is going to be a really, really deal that you don't want to miss. So if you haven't received the information on Impact and how to register, how to participate, how to get your tickets, if you're interested in being on the panels, some of you might be subject matter experts in some of the things that we'll be touching upon. We welcome you to be a part of that discussion. We welcome you to be a part of that dialogue, and we certainly will look forward to meeting and greeting you. It's going to be at the JW Marriott. And one of the unique functions of the conference is on day one we're going to have an awards luncheon, and this awards luncheon is going to recognize all of the contributions that minorities have made during the 2016-2017 election cycles. So we will be recognizing those who did outstanding work in fundraising, those who did outstanding work in strategic communications. We will be recognizing administration, people who went above and beyond, like Madam Treasurer, to assist people in our communities. So it is going to be absolutely outstanding. The RNC is really excited and gung-ho about this. This is the first time something like this has ever taken place. So it will be absolutely historic, absolutely a cannot miss event, and we will certainly look forward to greeting you in April.
And do me a favor, when you all get a chance, I want you to go on our website back there and just send in your comments, your feedback, what you like to see maybe done differently going into next year. Just give us your feedback and whether you had a great time, and just send us your honest feedback. And remember, every year our Trailblazers is always the weekend after the Super Bowl, which means it's the week before the NBA All-Star game. So it's that dead period. So, because normally we'll have a lot of celebrity athletes and entertainers, but weather blocks up several of them from getting in. But so it's always the weekend after the Super Bowl. Plus, I normally go to the Super Bowl, so that way I'm not conflicted out of attending my Super Bowl. But again, let's give one more applause to our honorees, Butler, Larry, Kane, and Abel Herman, Jackie Winters, and Minnie Finley. And thank you guys for coming out, and we'll see you next year. Honorees, we're going to do a group picture here before everyone scatters, so let's do a group picture on the stage.